And we are back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. This is the #1 talk business show in all the villes. I mean, from Statesville to Huntersville and all of the towns in between. This is News Talk WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM. If it's Friday morning, your business matters. And we always have a co-host, and this month it is Chris Villani, the performance strategist, founder of Rise of the Super Athlete. Chris, thank you so much, my friend, for being here. I appreciate it.
Yes. Love us.
And we are also blessed with our next guest, Carolyn Brand, the founder of Carolyn Brand Group. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
I apologize for you having to sit and listen to me and Chris first half of the show. You know, Chris and I have known each other for a while, you know.
That wasn't clear at all.
So, Caroline, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. One of the first things I do for my due diligence is I go to the website just to kind of get a feel of the company. It was clear to me you know what you're doing. So tell everybody, what is the Carolyn Brand Group all about?
Absolutely. Let's look at it this way. You're a company that's growing rapidly, and you've brought on a bunch of employees, and you get to a point where you need that human resources structure. Human resources is not a sexy topic, but it is so vital to organizations. And so without it, you have a lot of risk, and that can lead to employee morale and all kinds of issues, even lawsuits. So where Carolyn Brand Group comes in is we guide CEOs, founders, and also human resources leaders to build that structure, get the foundational pieces in place, and really set up a world-class human resources organization. So we do that three ways. I have a group of consultants, so myself and the consultants, we coach CEOs and founders one-on-one and talk to them about how to build that structure so they can go and do it. Or we'll come in, do an assessment, find out where are the hidden risks, because we've got them out there. You hire one employee, you multiply your risk immediately.
Right. Well.
So do a full assessment. And then the third is we come in and act as the HR executive to sit with the executive team to really look at what's going on, give that strategic advice. How do you grow your organization? How do you set it up? The correct hiring practices. Again, how do you build world class?
You know, I'll tell you something. For years, with Wayne Bylewin, was my partner in crime. We started this show together. We had a coaching group of about 10 to 12 small business people. We really thought we were going to help them with operations and marketing and that sort of stuff. The number one question and problem that kept coming up was personnel issues.
Yes.
It's never ending. Even very skilled, capable, qualified business people keep running into these same problems, right? And then our lovely government loves to change HR issues and tax issues, right? And so more and more over time, what used to be something we could manage is very difficult to manage. And so now when I go to your website, I'm thinking, yep, these are a lot of things a lot of people need.
So many complexities. You've just seen in the last 2 years the changes with COVID, remote work, inflation affecting salaries, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have to deal with all of these things. And if employees are our most important asset, which that's my belief, then we've got to figure out ways to take care of them because they do affect the bottom line.
So let's do this. Let's back up. Now, you don't have to go back to 1962.
No. That's fine.
But tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, because did you wake up on a Tuesday and say, I want to help people with HR? You know, give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah. So my mother said, get into human resources as a degree, and I said, great, and I didn't want to do it, but I did.
Wow, you followed Mama's advice.
Exactly. So from there, I actually was very fortunate to go work for Taco Bell and Pizza Hut in their human resources department. So I found out what it was like to work for a very large corporation. Understanding that gave me that foundation. I was able to go and work for smaller businesses and have that freedom and build.
And knowing retail, you see the worst and the best on that.
You name it. And so working for high growth organizations, leading teams, leading those HR departments, again, building world-class operations in HR. And I got to a point where, as being the executive, full-time executive, I thought, you know what? You build a world-class organization, then you maintain it. I want to go do that on and on and on. And so now I work with companies from 10 million, maybe 15 employees, all the way up to 130 million, 250 employees that need that strategic advice.
It's funny you say that because you say you want to fix it and on and on and on and keep doing it. A small bit, we don't want to do that. We'd like to set it and let it ride, and you really can't do that with HR.
There's too many hidden risks. Federal and state compliance requirements, they're constantly changing. How do you stay on top of that? And so it takes one employee who's disgruntled that calls and makes a complaint. Guess what? Somebody comes for a visit.
So Julie's got your website on the book. If somebody wanted to reach you, again, tell them how they could reach you.
Through the website, right down below. We've got an email address, phone number. Also on LinkedIn, Carolyn Brand. Easily find me there. Believe we've got that covered.
Yep.
So carolynbrandgroup.com.
Great. So I'm curious, what is like this main trend that you're seeing happening in the workforce? Because from my anecdotal view of this, right, I'm seeing a lot of people like my wife that work for the man, you know what I mean, now feel the privilege, they think it's a privilege, of working from home.
Yes.
And realizing, I'd like a day or two at the office. Now, let me tell you something. I want my wife to have a day or two at the office, right? What are those trends looking like on a larger scale? What do you see that seems to be happening?
It's such a mix. I have clients that are perfectly fine with letting all of their employees work remotely. I have others that want to bring their employees back and have them work a hybrid schedule, 3 days on, 2 days off. The problem that sort of comes up is that when employees come back to the office, they're often told, we want to build a community. The executive team is saying, come in, we want the community. Instead, what's happening is they're oftentimes sitting in front of their computer, Zoom meeting, and not engaging with the rest of the population. And so it's like, why would I come in if I'm sitting in front of a computer? So trying to find that balance. So just a cautionary tale for employers, if you're going to do that, really provide that sense of community. So
is there a mismatch then with that? So in other words, they hey, look, we want to do community, but then so the employer is not even offering any way of building a community. They don't have a sort of like this. There's no direction. There's no vision. There's no, how do we even know what we're doing? What would it even look like? And we have no progress happening there. So we really got a lot of challenges here, where it seems like the employer needs to go, if we were to build a community of employees that connect or whatever else and have growth and maybe come up with new ideas, what would that look like? That seems like that would be a more like a forward-facing question.
That's exactly
first,
right.
And then kind of reverse.
She said exactly to you.
Who said that? She did. Yeah. Oh, you got someone else like that line.
Yes. The way to mitigate that, or at least identify, is like what I do with my clients is let's survey the employees. Let's find out what they want. Now, they may not always get a choice. I love that
statement. Let's ask.
Let's ask. Let's communicate, right? And so once we find that out, then we can make informed decisions. But just making that decision without having any skin in the game from the employees, they kind of go, huh? Why are we doing that?
Let's take a break, and we come back. I want to find out, do you have any evidence that at home is productive or less productive, or I want to know, because I hear Jamin Diamond saying, come home, it really is perplexing to a small business guy like me that's trying to figure out what's the best way to do this. So let's take a break, and we come back. You can answer that question. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, and if it's Friday morning, I am talking to exceptional people, and today is no exception. The Carolyn Brand Group, HR Reimagined. We will be right back. And we are back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. This is News Talk WSIC, and we hope to inspire, inform, entertain you. And if it is WSIC, say it, Chris. Say it.
Your business matters.
You got to say it with a little bit more attitude. Your business matters. There you go. I mean, after 27 times on the show, at least you could do it with a little bit of attitude.
I got to play it off, because if it sounds like you, people ignore it, so you got to change it up.
Oh, okay. That being said, somebody who doesn't sound like me, Carolyn Brand. Carolyn, the founder of Carolyn Brand Group, HR Reimagined. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I asked you a question, probably a loaded question. What is this working? Is this at-home thing working? And do we know yet?
That is where this is probably one of the most complex topics to deal with is everybody wants something different. And we talked about this during the break, how your program, what kind of job you're in matters. And so some people do want to work fully from home. Others want hybrid. So it really depends. But can the business support those choices?
Right.
And sometimes you can't. If you're working in a manufacturing plant, you can't have your people working from home. So the key is communicating. So what is it that your team actually needs? And by figuring that out, you can probably come up with a pretty good plan. But there's some founders and CEOs, understandably, they just want to see their people because they believe when they see them that they're more productive, which is not true.
Yeah,
always.
I think, there was a couple of surveys that it seemed like about 30% are not productive without some kind of supervision and need to be in the office.
Correct.
The other 70% seem to be just as productive, if not more. Now, they might take a 2-hour lunch, but they'll work till 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
So it really is about the person.
It really is about the person. What I've found is that when you're working from home, well, they know this through studies, is that there's more time that's put into work because an employee already feels that if they're not being seen, that's a problem. So they're actually working later in the evening and spending more time on work. And it's not exactly the balance that people look for. So there's pros and cons to everything.
I can only speak for my wife. It's very anecdotal in this case, right? But my wife is the kind of person who wants to do a good job. She wants to do a good job, and she enjoys her work. So if you give her a couple hours in the middle of the day to go run an errand or go to Target or whatever, she'll give you 4 more hours at night.
That is the best kind of flexibility.
And the employer get much more productivity because it doesn't really matter whether that, accounting worksheet is done, at 12 in the afternoon or 12 at night. Measuring that might be a little bit difficult for the company.
It really and this is putting so much pressure on managers because now they're having to deal with, if you're hiring, for example, if you're hiring an entry-level employee, you've got to spend more time caring and feeding for them, so to speak, rather than a senior individual. And so it really requires the manager to be flexible in their thinking and how they approach the situation. Who's teaching that these days?
Right. And who
tough.
Knows to teach that?
Right.
It's not a simple... really, most business requires some sort of experience, right? To fix, and we're really 3 years into this,
Right.
So it just goes to show all of this is very new. I've been telling people for years, I bought and sold, owned and operated more small businesses than anybody you're going to meet, right? Big, bold statement. I know it, right? But the truth is, I've never been through this.
Yeah.
None of
us have.
We don't really know what this is going to look like when it's all over with. And it's why it's such, when I was reviewing your website, it just confirmed how important it is to bring somebody like you on board, because you can't say, I'll do this, I got this, because even skilled people have a really hard time with this one.
Absolutely, and it reaches a point. So, as companies hit that $1 million revenue, then 10 million, 100 million, et cetera, those become points where they're going to have to make some really tough decisions. So that employee that you hired, as an example, at the very beginning, they may not have that skill 5 years down the line when you're running at 25 million. So how do you deal with that situation? And that's where a lot of employers, in fact, that's a piece of advice I would say, is that deal with the situations at hand. If there's an employee that shouldn't be there or should be changed to another job, let's deal with that. Let's move that person on and up or out. And there's other ways to do things to mitigate those risks.
Oh, you just
take those barriers away.
Cut me to the quick when you said, "Let's move that employee out that helped me grow from 200,000 to $1.5 million." That cuts me to the quick, right?
It really does.
Isn't it more of an environment? Again, if no one's creating that environment, designing it, you're going to be stuck in hopefully maybe luck. area. This is the,
Yes.
it's like if you don't have a vision for what it is, and here's what's interesting. A lot of companies have like, well, this is our mission statement.
Right.
And, typically people learn this when they first get there. But if you were to ask an employee, especially even seasoned, I'll go anywhere, and to ask them what their mission statement is, none of them is going to know what it is.
Correct.
So there's a disconnect. The companies think, well, we've said this is how they were hired. But no one's talking to them. No one is actually what the conversation is. How do they look at this? What's going on? If we're looking at doing something a year ago, what they usually say is, hey, guys, we got some great things in the future, and you're coming along. That's it? That's the best you can do? So there's no vision on either side that has to happen. In your experience, what is like the most shocking thing you found out working in this industry?
The lack of willingness.
You made her sigh.
Yeah, that's.
Well,
You made her sigh.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
what's the one thing where you're like, it kind of shocked you, where then maybe you thought, hey, look, I thought it would be this way, but wow, I found out it was this.
That's. I would say it's that willingness to take action on difficult situations, and it's starting with the communication.
Okay.
That's
So
such an
having that
interesting answer.
compassionate conversation with that employee or with a situation, with a group, whatever that is.
It may very well be confrontational.
It could be confrontational, but having the confidence to be able to do that, and most people haven't had that experience. So
Or
that
don't want it. They don't want that They will push it off.
Right. And by not doing that, the problem plagues, it just continues, and it becomes a larger issue down the road, and it actually affects morale.
Yeah, great question, Chris.
Really
So I want to ask you something, because we've only got a couple of minutes left. My sister started a new therapy business, right? And I read on your website you help startups. So this seems to be a really big challenge, right? I'm refreshed with it because it's my sister, but I go through it every 2 or 3 years with one or two new companies that are getting started. They need the first employee or two to get started.
Right.
I notice you can help them through that with hiring practices and actually recruiting. Talk a little bit about that, because there's a lot of solo entrepreneurs out there that need, whether they know it or not, they need your help to help them with this. Well, walk us through that.
Absolutely. So that comes down to that one-on-one coaching to see what they need to begin with. And as we're stepping into hiring that 1 or 2 employees, I have a toolkit of everything a business would need, from hiring to offboarding, I'll call it, termination, and walk them through what they need. And I have resources available that will help them with the recruiting process and identify exactly that profile that they may need. And then help with the onboarding process as well, so that they really start off right from the beginning. And then if they need performance reviews and all those different types of things, we'll eventually get those things into place.
For me, when I read your website, because we don't know each other, we met each other through a coach that I trust, or you wouldn't be in this room. So
Thank you.
But to me, you gave me this sense of comfort and confidence that you can help me with my first hire.
Yep.
Because that's why I don't make the first hire. I'm afraid I won't make that move, and you give me confidence to do that. Not only do you have all these tools, but you also help me interpret them. I know there's plenty of tests that I can get the employees to take, but if I don't have you to help me to interpret those tests, it really doesn't do me a lot of good.
It's important to understand, what do you value in someone that you would hire?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that and filter that through to the job description, to the way that the methods we go about using to find the people. So it takes all of that into account so that we start right from the beginning, because we don't want to be hiring and replacing. And we want to build and build.
For small
and build.
business people, we can't, because it takes too much energy out of us to train that person.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christopher, as always, buddy, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. I love it.
You are listening. Chris, get ready. Get ready.
All right, here we go.
You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. If it's Friday morning, you are listening to the #1 talk business show, News Talk WSIC. And if it's Friday morning, do it, Chris. Do it. Do it.
Your business matters.
Yeah, now that's how you end the show. We'll see you next week.